There was a fine line between prophecy and fiction, between a witness's account and the work of a manipulative genius. Today, we journey to the heart of Brazil, a South American nation known not only for its vast forests and vibrant culture, but also for being one of the world's most fertile grounds for UFO sightings and contacts. It is in this setting that, in 1957, a book was published. A book that not only detailed direct contact with a being from another world, but also contained warnings about humanity's future and scientific concepts that intrigued even the Academy of Sciences of the Soviet Union. The author introduced himself as Dino Kraspedon. His story would become a classic in world ufology. But there was a problem. Was the story real? And more importantly, was the man who told it who he claimed to be? Prepare to unravel one of the most complex and controversial cases ever recorded, an enigma where the messenger's identity is as mysterious as the message itself. This is the story of a fraud, of a stolen truth, and of a contact that to this day challenges our understanding of reality. Our journey begins on a dark and lonely road on the night of November 15, 1952. Osvaldo Oliveira Pedrosa, a 40-year-old accountant, and his colleague, Francisco Rodriguez, were driving back to the metropolis of São Paulo after a long day of work in the state's interior. The fatigue of the trip led them to make a stop in a small, quiet town called Angatuba. For our international audience, it's important to note that Angatuba, at that time, was a minuscule place, almost a lost dot on the vast Brazilian map. Its name, inherited from the native Tupi-Guarani language, carries an almost prophetic echo for our story. It means mansion of the souls. In the quiet of the night, at a bar that stubbornly remained open, they found a 13-year-old boy, visibly distressed. He needed a ride to the neighboring city of Sorocaba and had missed the last bus. Feeling sorry for him, Osvaldo offered to help, and the three continued their journey. It was then that the veil of reality began to tear. In the middle of nowhere, the monotony of the darkness was broken by two anomalous lights, dancing orbs that seemed to weave a path through the trees. Intrigued, Osvaldo stopped the car. What followed paralyzed the three occupants. From behind a cliff, a colossal disc-shaped structure emerged in absolute silence. The object, dark and metallic, hovered over them before settling on top of a nearby hill, where it remained for 15 long minutes, as if observing them. Still in shock, they resumed their journey as soon as the object disappeared into the sky. But the contact was far from over. Miles ahead, on a straight stretch of the road, the craft reappeared, this time completely blocking their path. It was immense, about 65 feet in diameter, a silent wall of extraterrestrial metal. From about 160 feet away, Osvaldo shut off the car's engine. The fear was palpable. A door opened in the fuselage, and a silhouette materialized. It was a human-looking being, tall, with very pale skin and dressed in a tight black suit. He walked slowly toward them. Panic gave way to a muted astonishment when the being spoke, his voice sounding calm and clear, assuring them he meant no harm. He stated he was on a study mission and somehow knew where they were going. "You can go. Nothing will happen," he said. With the same serenity with which he appeared, the being returned to the ship, which ascended vertically and vanished among the stars. The seed of curiosity had been planted. For Osvaldo Pedrosa, that encounter wasn't an endpoint, but a calling. A month later, in December 1952, a business trip took him along the same route again. The memory of that night was too strong to ignore. He decided to stop at the exact spot of the sighting near Ongatuba. He parked the car at dusk and waited. The entire night passed in vigil, but nothing happened. He fell asleep inside the vehicle, perhaps disappointed. But the next morning brought the reward for his persistence. The disc-shaped object was there, landed in a flat area, as if it had been waiting for him. The door opened, and the same humanoid being emerged. This time, he introduced himself as the Commander, and to Osvaldo's amazement, invited him inside. Osvaldo would later describe an invisible force that lifted him off the ground and guided him into the craft. The interior was as bewildering as the exterior. He was introduced to 4 other crew members and taken to a luminous control room dominated by luminous panels. There, the commander began to reveal the purpose of his presence. He claimed his civilization originated from one of Jupiter's moons, Ganymede, and that they had been studying Earth for centuries. He spoke with a troubling clarity about humanity's problems, social disorganization, conflicts, and the way the planet was being mistreated. He explained that his ship used no fuel, operating on principles of physics that Osvaldo, with his accounting background, could barely comprehend. The commander lamented not being able to show him more of the ship, as his clothes did not offer the necessary protection against the internal energies. The visit lasted for about an hour. Before leaving, the commander made an enigmatic promise. He would visit him again, and it didn't matter where Osvaldo was, alive or dead, they would be able to find him. 4 months passed. Osvaldo's life had returned to an apparent normality in the city of Sao Paulo, until, one afternoon in April 1953, the doorbell of his house in the Villa Clementino neighborhood rang. His wife answered and called for him, saying that a distinguished man, carrying what looked like a Bible, wished to speak with him. Upon reaching the door, Osvaldo felt his blood run cold. Standing before him, dressed like an ordinary man, was the commander. The encounter was surreal. The being from Ganymede sat at the Pedrosa family's kitchen table. The conversation this time was deeper and more alarming. The commander spoke about the future, about cosmic events that would threaten Earth. He specifically mentioned a celestial object which he called SS-433, a body from another solar system that would enter ours and could eventually collide with our planet. During the visit, the family offered lunch to the visitor. Upon seeing the meat served on the plate, the commander refused to eat, delivering a lesson on life and health. He stated that as long as humans took the lives of other beings to feed themselves, diseases would persist. He explained that a young body can fight off the negative effects, but with age, defenses fall, and meat consumption shortens life. This was not the last meeting. In the days that followed, they met again in busy public places in Sao Paulo, like Praça da República. Osvaldo, always with a notebook in hand, feverishly jotted down everything the being told him. Concepts of physics, philosophy, the nature of God, which the commander described as an isotropic straight line, parallel to itself and upon itself, vibrating at a 90-degree angle, and the long history of alien observation on Earth. On one of these occasions, amidst the crowd at Roosevelt Station, the commander simply turned and vanished, dissolving among the people like a ghost. In 1955, armed with his notebooks full of incomprehensible notes and drawings of cosmic concepts, Osvaldo Pedrosa began to compile the experience into a book. While writing, he claims to have received one last visit. The commander gave him a final prophecy, a dark passage that was to be included in the work. The prophecy spoke of a time when the earth would be emptied and plundered, consumed by a curse, and its inhabitants burned, with few survivors. The cause, according to the commander, would be the arrival of a second sun in our system, which would destabilize the planet's orbits and push Earth out of its habitable zone. This event, he predicted, would be detected by scientists before the end of the 20th century. 2 years later, in 1957, the book Contact with Flying Saucers was published. Osvaldo signed not with his own name, but with the pseudonym that would go down in history, Dino Kraspedon. The work was a bombshell, and its impact reached far. In March of that year, a letter from the Academy of Sciences of the Soviet Union arrived at the Brazilian publisher, expressing immense scientific interest in the book's content and requesting more copies for study. At the height of the Cold War, any communication from the Soviet Union was monitored. The letter was intercepted by agents of the Brazilian government, who, intrigued, went after the author. The publisher revealed the true identity of Dino Kraspedon. Days later, agents went to Osvaldo Pedrosa's house, confiscated all copies of the book, and took him for interrogation in Rio de Janeiro. He was pressured to reveal everything about his contacts. Thanks to the intervention of his brother, an army general who vouched for his integrity, he was released. But 15 days later, he was summoned again, this time for a meeting with high-ranking officials who questioned him about the scientific details of the work. In the end, he was forced to take an oath to never speak about the matter with anyone ever again. And for 37 years, Osvaldo Pedrosa kept his promise. He remained silent.
Time has a peculiar way of bringing secrets to light. In the mid-1990s, Osvaldo Pedrosa, now living a quiet life in another city, broke his long silence. Spurred by renewed interest in ufology, he re-released his old book and began giving interviews, reaffirming that he was Dino Kraspedon, the witness to one of the most important contacts in history. The public and the UFO community were fascinated. The witness was back. It was then that the first cracks in the story began to appear. An investigative report by the Brazilian magazine Isto É in 1995 stirred up the dust on the case. Ufologists like Carlos Reis began following leads that pointed in a shocking direction. Osvaldo Pedrosa was not the author of the book. He had appropriated an identity and a story that were not his. The true author was a man named Aliadino Felix. And if Osvaldo's name was common, Aliadino's was infamous. Felix was not a simple accountant. He was a dark and complex figure in Brazilian history, a writer, a right-wing paramilitary leader, accused of involvement in political attacks during the military regime, who, in his delusions of grandeur, proclaimed himself the Messiah of the Jewish people. Aliadino Felix was the real Dino Kraspedon. He claimed to have experienced the contacts, but his own narrative was unstable, even later denying he had ever seen any ships. He passed away in 1985, 10 years before Osvaldo's deception was exposed on a national level, and thus could not defend himself or unmask the impostor. Aliadino Felix's family, holders of his copyrights, only became aware of the appropriation when the case gained international fame. They watched, stunned, as Osvaldo Pedrosa traveled the country, gave lectures, and profited from the story that belonged to their relative. Their patience ran out.
In the year 2000, the case went to court. Aliadino Felix's family sued Osvaldo Pedrosa for copyright infringement. During the proceedings, facts about Osvaldo's past also came to light, including an arrest for crimes against the military order. Cornered by the evidence, Osvaldo Pedrosa confessed. He admitted in court to having re-edited and republished the work without permission, improperly claiming authorship. The parties reached a settlement, and one of the conditions was clear. Osvaldo Oliveira Pedrosa
was legally forbidden from presenting himself under any circumstances as Dino Kraspedon. The fraud was, finally, proven. The man who for decades was seen as a UFO witness was, in fact, an impostor. But here, the solution to one mystery only gives rise to a much greater enigma. If Osvaldo lied about being the author, what does that tell us about the story itself? The original source, Aladino Felix, was a man of questionable credibility, a controversial and unstable figure. Could he have invented it all? Was the book Contact with Flying Saucers merely the feverish delirium of a complex and perhaps disturbed mind? Or did something really happen? Is it possible that such a troubled man was in fact contacted? That he was the channel for a genuine message, an imperfect vessel for an extraordinary truth? The book remains. Its ideas about physics, its warnings about the future, and its philosophical concepts continue to intrigue readers to this day. The messenger's identity has been unmasked, but the message he left behind continues to echo, an unsolved cosmic puzzle. What does your intuition say about the mind behind this work? Was Aladino Felix a messenger or a master of manipulation? Is there a piece of this puzzle that for you is the key to it all? And do you know any particular detail of this case, something not mentioned here that could enrich our discussion? Leave your theory and your information in the comments, because every perspective enriches our investigation. Every like on this video is a bright signal to the algorithm, showing that the exploration of complex mysteries like this must continue. It's the support that drives us to go deeper in the next case. Before you go, make sure you are part of our community of investigators by clicking the subscribe button. Your subscription ensures you won't miss the next file in our search for the truth. Thank you for your attention. We'll see you in the next case.